Hey there, how's it going? Today it's Wednesday, May 13th, and I just finished a pretty hard workout. I did it indoors today because it was rainy this afternoon and I wasn't able to get out earlier. And even though I wanted to do a little bit of longer ride, I wasn't gonna avoid having a good training day today. And I did a pretty hard workout that I was actually unable to complete. And I thought that there were some learning lessons that I could talk about or touch on in this video. So specifically in this particular workout today, I really wanted to get out and do like 3 or 4 hours with some high aerobic efforts, like going kind of hard on the climbs, but nothing crazy. And then to do a few sprints. Again, nothing crazy, but just kind of like a general strength building ride. Because this week I had intended to be a relatively easy week after a good few weeks of training pretty well. I wasn't able to get out for that long, so I wanted to kind of condense things and do like an hour to hour and a half indoor training, and to make it like count so that it was a pretty good session even though it wasn't terribly long. So I picked a workout that was pretty hard. It was well over an hour and it had 3 by 6 minutes of high tempo riding, so like 90% of threshold approximately, and a few short 30-second efforts well above threshold with a couple minutes of recovery in between each of these efforts, and then 3 by 6 minutes of threshold with a few minutes of rest in between, and then 3 more sprints at the end. And these are 30-second efforts that are like, I think it was 120% of FTP. Anyway, I was unable to complete this workout, and I think that that's interesting for a few reasons, and I wanted to go over kind of my assessment of that workout, just kind of as a third party looking in, as though I was coaching myself as an athlete, because these types of questions come up a lot for people that I work with. On the workout, I wasn't able to complete it. A lot of people, when I'm coaching them, they say like, oh, I wasn't able to complete the efforts, or I wasn't able to do the power that was the target power for that ride. And I think that it's really good to keep in mind like what the goals are for your training session. And if you can accomplish those goals, you don't necessarily have to do like the exact power or the exact heart rate that you had in mind. A lot of times, like maybe you're just not fully recovered, and maybe you can do 250 watts instead of 265 watts. If it's the appropriate amount of difficulty for you and your body on that day, then it's going to be an effective training session, whether you feel great and you can do an extra 5 or 10 watts, or you're feeling like a little behind on your recovery, but you can still do a good training session and you can just do like 95 or 98% of the power or intensity that you were shooting for. And in this case, I know for a fact, like last weekend, I went out to Mount Diablo. I went pretty hard for 20 minutes. I went from Southgate to the Junction, and that's not my fastest time, but it's a pretty fast time, and I know that my power was pretty good. Right now my power meter's on the fritz, so I don't have like an exact accurate number to go by, but I know for sure I was doing at least 400 watts for that 20-minute period of time. So today, the fact that I couldn't finish the 3 by 6 minutes of threshold in the second half of my workout was, less a testament to my fitness and more a testament to maybe being a little bit less recovered, but I don't think so. I think the biggest by far factor that contributed to me being unable to complete this workout was the fact that I was doing an indoor workout instead of an outdoor workout, and I don't have an amazing fan set up. So I quickly got really hot on the trainer and I was sweating buckets, like there's a puddle on the ground, and my my jersey and my bibs and my socks and shoes are just like sopping wet 30 or 40 minutes into my workout. And basically my heart rate was very high and my body was pumping a lot of blood to my working muscles, but it was also pumping a lot of blood to my skin to dump a lot of sweat into the environment to try to keep cool. But it was a losing battle because there's not as much evaporative cooling if you're stationary inside and you don't have a 20-25 mile an hour wind going by you constantly like you would have if you were outside. So anyway, I got through 2/3 of the workout and couldn't complete it. And then got off my bike, filled up my bottles, and then just went back for another half an hour of like steady endurance riding before calling it for the day. So it was a great session, even though I wasn't able to complete the workout. And in my book, there's no reason to think that that was a failure of a workout, even though I would have liked to have completed the high quality part of it. And the heat was the main factor that prevented me from being able to do it. I know for a fact, like if I was outside, I could for sure do that power for longer. It's not a big deal. I put in a good effort and it was hitting the high aerobic intensities that I wanted to do. And afterwards I kept going for a steady endurance session for like another 30 minutes after the intervals were called. And that also kind of contributed to my overall goal for the day, which was to get like a medium endurance session with some high aerobic efforts. All in all, it was a success. I had my trainer set to erg mode, and so it was automatically setting the power to how the workout was prescribed. And if I was doing it out in the real world, or if I wasn't using that setting on the trainer and I just knew that I wanted to hit, 380 watts or 400 watts or whatever it was for each of the intervals, I would have just adjusted slightly, and maybe instead of doing 380 for the second set, I would have maybe done like 365 or something like that, and probably would have been able to complete the workout more effectively. I don't know, it's neither here nor there. Either of those could have been effective strategies, just doing it until I stopped, or probably like if I had known how I was going to feel throughout the workout and it was really easy to just like slightly tweak it, which it isn't really, so that's maybe a flaw in their systems, but I would have just adjusted the power down by like 15 or 20 watts and completed the workout. And again, it goes back to like all of your training and all of your workouts should be specific to your goals and specific to where you are at in the moment. And they shouldn't be kind of these abstract ideas that were set months in advance that really aren't connected with exactly like where you're at that day or where you're at in your progression. And day to day, if you feel great, you shouldn't hold back if it's a hard workout and you're trying to go really hard. If it feels easy, maybe you should just do a little bit more power. Or if you have a hard workout scheduled and you're feeling like pretty good and you can do it, but you can't quite hit your power targets because it's a really hard workout and you have lofty targets, just accept the fact that maybe you're doing 5 or 10 watts less, and it's still going to be a great session because where you're at on that day, the amount of glycogen you have, your hydration status, your mental acuity, and like readiness to do the workout are just at a certain level. So, maybe that day 380 is what you can do, and maybe on a perfect day you can do 400 or whatever it is, but you want to make sure that that workout is specific to exactly where you're at in that moment. And don't like overthink it. Don't, have your current self today committed to some idea that your coach or you had a month ago when you wrote that workout or planned it. I feel like it's kind of like surfing. Like you have an idea of like the waves you want to catch, but like the exact speed or timing of it, like you need to work with what the current situation is and make the most of the resources that you have available at that moment. So your recovery status, your fueling, the time that you have, the weather, all of those things can factor in. Maybe on a day when it's 80 degrees or 70 degrees, you can hit that target, but it's 90 degrees and you should adjust the target down a little bit or shorten the intervals or something like that. So just things to, keep in mind for very like tactical approaches to your workouts.